Hey guys and gals, it's Trevor again. Today we're going to be painting the new creepy gross Ork Runtherd, and we're going to make him even creepier and grosser by giving him a pale human colored flesh tone. But before we start that, we're going to work on our base because I love forward planning. So let's smoosh some milliput onto the surface of the base. Then we're going to firmly press our Runtherd into the milliput. We're going to jab the milliput with our clay shaping tools to create a nice uneven rocky texture. And then we're going to gently remove our Runtherd from the milliput, which should leave a nice impression for us to glue him back in later. Alright, let's leave that to dry. And now let's paint this guy. I'm gonna use the Citadel Wraithbone primer to prime him up. Then I'm gonna use some purple, the sneakiest color, to paint his animal skin robe. Then I'm gonna use a dark brown to paint his pants and this suspicious sack that he has on his back. Then I'm gonna use a black paint to paint his luscious hair, his gun, his completely safe looking cattle prod, and this weird generator thing that he has on his back. Honestly, if he's carrying this thing around like that, it's no wonder his posture is so bad. Next, I'm gonna use some lead belcher to paint all the metal parts on the model, such as the prongs of his cattle prod, the metal details on his gun, the shepherd's crook on his back, the metal details on his back generator, his armored shoulder pad, and his fun metal foot. Then I'm gonna use this dark red paint to paint just one of the two wires leading to the cattle prod, because color coding your wires can really help with electrical safety. After that, I'm gonna use a bright green to paint the second suspicious sack on his back. Remember kids, never trust a man carrying more than one suspicious sack. I'm gonna paint his eyes bright blue to give him a sensual piercing stare, and I'm also gonna use this blue to paint the coil of the generator on his back so that we can give him a cool electrical glowy effect later. Now I'm just gonna fix any mistakes I made on the skin using the Wraithbone, and I'm gonna mix some black and white paint to form a grey paint to paint the rocks at his feet. Let's paint the inside of his mouth pink for healthy gums and tongue, and we're gonna pick out his 4 teeth using some screaming skull. For his nice human flesh tone, we're gonna apply some Reichland flesh shade all over his skin. Doesn't that look waxy? After that, we're gonna apply a black wash to, well, basically everywhere else on the model. After the washes are dry, I'm gonna highlight his purple robes using a brighter purple. So I'm just gonna pick out all the edges of the robes, and I'm gonna dot all the bumps on them. I'm gonna dry brush a dull orange paint onto all the brown parts of the model, and then I'm gonna stipple some Wraithbone onto the most raised parts of the skin. This is really gonna emphasize the contrast between the lighter and darker parts of the skin and make it look even more gross. After that, I'm gonna dry brush a lighter silver paint onto all the metal parts to bring back some of the shine, and I'm gonna highlight the red wires with some orange. I'm gonna mix some white and some of the bright green to form an even brighter green to highlight the second suspicious sack on his back. After that, I'm gonna go back with the original green and just stipple some onto the edges of the highlights to smooth out the transitions. Time to attempt some glowy power effects. I'm gonna mix some white and some blue and paint it onto the very tips of the coil of his generator. I also want to make his cattle prod look like it's been electrified, so I'm gonna paint some of this onto the tips of the back prongs and the front prongs. After that, I'm gonna go back with the original blue paint and stipple it onto the edge of the super bright blue paint we just painted on. This is gonna create a nice smooth transition towards the tip of the prongs. I'm also gonna brush this onto all the edges of the parts surrounding the generator coil on his back. After that, I'm gonna mix in even more white paint to our super bright blue paint and paint this onto the very tips of the prongs. Then I'm gonna water down the original blue paint until it's really thin, and I'm gonna paint this onto all the parts surrounding the generator coil. And once that's all dry, I think our glowing power effects look very passable. Alright, let's give his hair some life. First, I'm gonna dry brush this dark green onto all his hair, and then I'm gonna dry brush this bright green onto just the tips of his hair. It's not just a phase, mom. Alright, I think he's looking pretty decent, so let's finish up our base, which should be dry by now. So I'm just gonna prime it gray, apply a black wash, mix some cheap black and white paint to form a light grey paint for dry brushing, and don't forget to dry brush this onto the rocks at his feet as well. And then I'm gonna dry brush some white to highlight everything. Alright, let's super glue our Runtherd to the base, and I almost forgot, I want to add a red wash around his mouth to give his lips a healthy glow. I'm gonna line his base with black to keep it neat, and for his name, well, with the purple clothes and the green hair, he kind of looks like the Joker, but he's not, he's just a creepy guy, so I think I know the perfect name for him. And there you go, one pale, creepy Ork Runtherd. I don't think I put in that much effort into painting him, but I'm pretty pleased with the result. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, now is the perfect time. Also, for those of you that want to help me out even more, please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/TrevorGoesMeep. Alright, hope you had fun, cause I definitely did, and I'll see you all next time.